On today's episode of Shop Talk, we built a slide out for a 101 quart ARB fridge freezer. This video is going to be a little different from what I normally do on this channel, but this thing turned out pretty cool, so I just kind of wanted to show it here today. And I did take some video along the way, so I kind of spliced something together just to show how it was made. When we go camping, we may go a week or more without going to a store, and I've got a fairly large family, so I wanted a large cooler, and I wanted one with fridge and freezer capability, because, ice cream and popsicles are great when you go camping. But no one makes a slide out for the 101 quart cooler. They make them for the smaller ones and the medium ones, but not for the large ones, and I'm assuming that's probably because of weight, and I wanted to be able to slide it out for easy access to things in the cooler. So I started with a couple of pieces of 1x3 tubing I had laying around. I think it was 3/16 wall. It's kind of overkill for this, but it's what I had laying around. And I think I added 4 or 5 inches past what the cooler's length was on each end to give me some room for the tie downs. I ordered a couple of 40-inch drawer slides off Amazon to use for this. I'll try to remember to put a link in the description down below. I think they were rated at 500 pounds. To use for the slides, and then I put nut inserts into these pieces of tubing to bolt the slides to them. The rest of the pieces are just some 2-inch by 3/16 flat bar I had laying around and some 1.5 by 1.5 1/8-inch angle iron. And I'm going to make the ends and some cross pieces to make the whole thing stable out of those. Here I think it's all just spot welded together. And I was working on this out in the driveway at night because my shop's full of stuff right now, and so excuse me for the lighting. And here's one with the slides installed. Now these lock in the closed position, the halfway position, and the fully extended position, which is kind of a nice feature if you open the lift gate on the vehicle and you don't want it to just come sliding out if you're parked downhill. Or if it's tilted downhill, you want it to be able to lock, or if it's parked the other way, you don't want it to keep sliding back in, so it's nice that it locks wherever you put it. And then I built another frame out of 1.5 by 2.5 angle iron, 1/8-inch wall. That fits inside the sliders and is the part that actually slides out with the cooler on top of it. And here I'm test fitting it in the Expedition once. That's the cooler over to the left that's going on it. It only fits in there with the third row seat folded down. And part of that is because of how I fasten it into the vehicle. It actually fastens to the third row seat, and I'll show you that here in just a minute. And I got the strap kit from ARB as well to fasten it down or attach it to the framework so it can't come off. And I realized I had a bunch of wasted space in the middle of this that wasn't being used for anything, so I built this little slide out wooden table that you can pull out of the end of it. It's just built out of some 1x something planks I had laying around, and I just used C-channel for the slides for it, nothing fancy. It was kind of an afterthought, why not? I cut off some 1/8-inch pieces of tubing, I don't remember, it was like 2-inch tubing probably, and went ahead and welded them to the crossbars. And that just gives the feet on the cooler a place to sit to make sure it doesn't slide around a little bit. The fridge freezer's got these 4 little rubber feet on it, and they just drop into each of those, and then the tie straps hold it down tight on that so it can't go anywhere. Now, I didn't want to worry about the power cord for the fridge getting cut or damaged when I slide it in and out, so I used an 18 by 25 millimeter cable carrier. Over on the side, it's flexible, that way it can slide out and be protected. It just kind of rolls up as you slide it forward or backward. I'll try to remember to put a link to that in the description as well. It just keeps the wiring protected and safely routed. And then there is a plug I put on the passenger rear interior trim quarter panel interior trim that it just plugs into. There's a second battery under the hood that powers it, deep cycle battery that charges off of the alternator on the vehicle. Sometime I might do a video on how I added that second battery under the hood. But really, I mean, the whole thing just kind of slides out like a drawer in a kitchen cabinet. I don't think very many of those have slides rated at 500 pounds, but it's the same thing. There's 1/4-inch bolts with nuts on the inside there that bolt the inside track to the slides. And then, like I say, there's nut inserts in the square tubing that it bolts to on the outside. And there you can see the locking and unlocking mechanism for the slides a little better. You just lift up on that to unlock them. And I guess I forgot to mention there's a tab welded on the outer track and then another one on the inner track that the cable or wire router attaches to, so it moves with it. And the back one had to be at this angle because the cable couldn't turn sharp enough for that to be a flat piece. It couldn't turn 180 degrees that sharply. So I had to angle it up a little bit and give it a little more room to turn. You can kind of see here that's about as tightly as it can turn. To fasten it down in the vehicle, I just used some C-channel here on the front of it. And actually I don't think I had any C-channel laying around, so I just used a couple of pieces of angle iron and welded them together and made C-channel. But that bolts onto the front of it, and then a ratcheting strap lays in that. And what I do is it goes around the seat once the seat is folded down, the seat back, and that's all that holds it in. The frame is fairly heavy, it wants to stay in place anyway, and then I think I cut a piece of like 1x6 pine, maybe an inch or two wider than what the seat back was, and I wrapped that in a towel and lay the ratcheting strap in the seat and then the towel with the piece of pine in it, and fold the seat down onto it, and then you just go through the C-channel with it and ratchet the whole thing down. And the reason it's offset the way it is just because that's where it needed to be to line up with the seat properly. And I also made that C-channel or those pieces bolt on rather than weld on. That way if I want to switch this out to a different vehicle, I can just make a different bracket however I need to mount it in that one and bolt that onto the front of it without remaking the whole thing. But I'm really happy with how this turned out. It slides in and out smoothly. With it slid out, there's enough room between the lids on the cooler and the liftgate on the vehicle that you can pull the full baskets out, which I couldn't do with it inside the vehicle before. And that's really handy, like if you want to have the baskets already loaded up for going camping, but you got them in the fridge or in a freezer, you can just pull them out of the freezer and then go drop them in the cooler when you're ready to go. That works out nicely. No, it fits well. You can set a few things on top of it if you need to, if you need some more room, some sleeping bags or something like that. There you can kind of see the electrical connector in the corner of the interior trim panel. Like I say, sometime I might do a video about how I added a second battery to the vehicle to power this thing. I've got a deep cycle, like a camper battery, and that'll power it pretty much for a whole weekend. If for some reason the battery did start going low, you could just start the engine and run it for half an hour or something and charge the battery up a little bit. Not a big deal. So I hope you found this video interesting or helpful. If you did, please click the like button down below. I got a lot more stuff coming up, so please subscribe. And as always, have a great week.